It is Friday here in the untied states of America, and if you've made it this far, congratulations, it's the end of the week. I'm your host, Max Burns, Democratic strategist, and this is the show where we break down 5 of the most interesting, biggest, and weirdest news stories tackling this country right now. And there is a lot this week. We could have done 20 this week easily. My regular host, Sam Osterhout, is out fighting the good fight. You may notice we've brought in another heavy hitter in his place, my favorite guy, Washington, D.C. journalist, veteran political reporter, man about town, Brian Karam, author of The Reporter's Notebook, host of the Just Ask a Question podcast. Brian, how you doing, man?
How you doing, Max? Good to see you, brother. Wait a minute. The future's so bright, I got to wear shades. Go ahead.
It has been one of those weeks that feels like an absolute year. I mean, we just saw the Pope yesterday said that if he had to root for, they asked the Pope if he would root for the United States or Peru in the World Cup. And he said, Peru. So, I mean, come on. I get that he's mad at Trump and that he's the Pope, but come on. Where's your patriotism?
He's the Pope. He's a Peru guy. Well, I just lost that bet. I did go Rodney.
We made it a minute. We have some standing poly market bets just to make a little cash on the side during the show of which impressions Brian's going to do. We just cashed out Rodney Dangerfield, if anybody had that bet. All right, folks, we have a ton to dig into here. Follow us, by the way, on Lincoln Square, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Substack, all over the place. Leave some comments in the feed here, and we will talk about them and bring them up. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys seem to have no problem with that, if YouTube's any indication. And we're going to dive right in to one of the dumbest weeks that we've had yet. Starting with our number 5 story. Turns out your favorite shirtless drunken madman is going off the air. And for once, I'm not talking about Fox News meathead Jesse Waters. Alex Jones and InfoWars finally running out the clock on this judicial decision for a $1.2 billion defamation case against the Sandy Hook shooting families, who he said didn't have any deaths. They were all crisis actors. The judge now seeming to be prepared to hand over InfoWars to The Onion, of all people, and Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric fame to be their creative director. And Alex Jones, of course, taking this really well. I think we have a clip of this.
Just because you're wearing my shirt don't mean you're me. So let's be 100% clear about that. And so you guys just keep laughing.
Oh, I will, Alex. It is good that we got him out of his shirt for the last show. It seems fitting. It's either that or turning the frogs gay as the all-time Alex Jones moments. Brian, what do we expect here from The Onion InfoWars?
I don't know. Hopefully they'll wear their shirts. I would expect out of The Onion InfoWars what you get out of The Onion all the time. You're going to have some good satire, and they're going to be making fun of people like Alex Jones. So Alex Jones won't disappear from InfoWars. He just will have no editorial control about how he's portrayed on InfoWars. And that may be a good thing. Everybody needs an editor. And in Alex Jones's case, you need a leash and probably some disinfectant, maybe some flea dip. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with. I would also expect that you're going to see, viral videos. Honestly, but there's
so much Alex Jones to go around.
Yeah. So he should be happy. He'll have another life.
And he ended the show last night. They ran until midnight when the power was cut off to the InfoWars studio. Alex Jones sitting around with a bunch of other conspiracy theory losers, drinking beer and wine, talking about how now he's ready to go nuclear. The next phase is going to be even bigger, Brian. He's taking the fight to The Onion and the globalist lizard men. But I guess he's going to do it from his living room in an apartment in Texas because he doesn't have the studio anymore.
Well, if he's going to go nuclear, be careful. Donald Trump has vowed that you can't have a nuclear weapon, so he may get bombed. So we'll see how that happens. There may be a B2 in his future.
So what do we think? Is Alex Jones coming back? Is he going to, I'm sure he'll have something else, but is it going to be able to capture the sort of moment that InfoWars was? Because it's almost as if the cultural moment now is passed InfoWars by. Everything is InfoWars these days.
Well, as far as it goes, who cares? Alex Jones has made, histrionic claims since he burst into the mediascape. So whatever he claims, I'm not going to watch, and I don't care. So I mean, if he comes out and declares himself Jesus and that he's going to raise the dead and walk on water, let him go. I won't be watching. It's just not enough money, Penny. It's just too much. So there you go.
Ooh, anybody with Connery just clear their poly market bet too. Now, I do want to note, though, Alex Jones in recent days, in recent weeks, been attacking Trump pretty directly. He's calling him the Antichrist, saying he betrayed MAGA. And now all of a sudden, going off the air, he's incorporated this into the conspiracy theory, right? He's losing because Trump wants him off the air. What do we make? Do we think that Alex Jones has pull with any of these people, or is this just shouting into the wind?
Well, he's always shouting into the wind. Usually it's, like farting into the wind. It comes back and hits him in the face, and it stinks even worse. Donald Trump doesn't care. Donald Trump has plenty of megaphones and mouthpieces working for him right now that are far more important than Alex Jones. Alex Jones was part of the Marjorie Taylor Greene crowd. And so what that does tell you when he's going against Donald Trump is it is a peek under the cover or under the hood to see how the engine is running as far as Donald Trump's modern merriment mayhem miscreants who are now have abandoned him. So that will be that's just an indication of that. Does Trump care? No, he still has Jesse Waters. He still has Stephen Chung. He still has Caroline Levitt. He still has Pam Bondage. He still has all those people, working for him, including Pete. I love to look at myself in the mirror, Hegseth. So Alex Jones is way down on the list of people that Donald Trump gives a flying fickle finger of fate about.
True. Well, what can we say about Alex Jones that psychologists haven't already said? He said some funny things once, and then he got boring, and now he's gone. Let's move on. Let's go to number 4. To another bit of comedy that nobody's laughing at here. Jimmy Kimmel and the threats from the FCC. FCC Chair Brendan Carr calling in ABC's broadcast licenses early to review them for potential violations after Jimmy Kimmel made one of the softest jokes ever. A classic of the Borscht Belt circuit. Now, the FCC, because they can't point to anything Jimmy Kimmel actually did that broke a rule, is saying, as of yesterday, this isn't actually about Kimmel at all. This is a coincidence. We're calling in the licenses because we found some hints of unauthorized DEI at ABC, and that's why we're taking it. Let's see what Kimmel had to say.
It was a pretend roast. I said, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at her, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow, which obviously was a joke about their age difference and the look of joy we see on her face every time they're together. It was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am. It was not, by any stretch of the definition, a call to assassination, and they know that. I've been very vocal for many years speaking out against gun violence in particular, but I understand that the First Lady had a stressful experience over the weekend, and probably every weekend is pretty stressful in that house. And also, I agree that hateful and violent rhetoric is something we should reject. I do, and I think a great place to start to dial that back would be to have a conversation with your husband about it, because...
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I've made
so
that.
Brian, we've got the Dean Martin celebrity roast jokes back in the headlines here after 55 years. What do you take on it?
Well, can you imagine if Don Rickles were around? Jesus, Mary and Joseph, Donald Trump would be having a, as my dad said, with all this, when I was younger, with all this horse stuff around, there's got to be a pony somewhere. The fact of the matter is, look, Donald Trump is part of the reason why the United States of America now, according to Reporters Without Borders, ranks among it's the lowest ranking we've ever had. These were the methodology and the study was released this week. The annual assessment of press freedom in the world. The United States now ranks 64th, When they started this 25 years ago, we were 17th. We fell 7 ranks here because of Donald Trump. This is another attempt to do nothing more than to squelch independent press and media. He did it successfully with CBS when he sued Paramount and when they were in the middle of being bought out. He sued them over edits. And now that's all that happens with him or edits. So nobody's suing. Fact of the matter is Donald Trump is thin-skinned, does not want anyone to insult him or to question him. And this is another example of him pushing back. It has nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel and everything to do with controlling the media. And Jimmy Kimmel's right. That would, if anything, look, comedians make jokes, free speech. You can make a joke anytime you want. You don't have to like it. You can turn the TV set to a different station. You cannot watch it. You can read something else. But when it is a basic First Amendment problem, when the president's wife, the First Lady of the United States, says she's insulted and they shouldn't make the joke, and backed up by the president, that's the full power of the U.S. federal government coming after a comedian for making a joke. That is totalitarianism.
The really scary thing, I mean, to your point, is we say a lot, if this went to court, it would obviously be thrown out. But these aren't going to court. I mean, these companies are settling cases.
Doesn't want to go to court.
They're giving Trump money for offending him, essentially. I mean, this is a dangerous... And now we're self-censoring to the point where CBS News took Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to the White House Correspondents' Dinner and sat at the table with him. That, not bad bias. Jimmy Kimmel making a joke from 1966. Unconscionable bias, Brian.
Yeah, well, of course, but that's the way Trump rolls.
And to think, this used to be the change the channel conservatives, the if you don't like it, look away, don't police our speech conservatives. But it turns out now you can't say much.
I'll remind everyone, in the 1970s, hell, they satirized this in the Blues Brothers. I was alive when the Ku Klux Klan, because of First Amendment speech, because of their rights, so were allowed to march in Louisville, Kentucky, well, south of Louisville and Shepherdsville, and they marched. It was covered. Nobody liked it. I mean, John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd didn't, drive up in a police car and, run them into the river. But that it happened. We didn't like it, but that's free speech. You can hate me. You can tell me that you hate me. You can't act on the hate, which is the basis of the First Amendment. I disagree with what you say, but will defend to death your right to say it. And J.D. Vance, when Donald Trump was running for re-election, quoted that and said, Biden is the one who's stifling your free speech. We will let everyone speak freely. And that's not what Donald Trump has done. Not by a long shot is this what Donald Trump has done. He's doubled down on on going after the press. He's the reason why the United States ranks lower than it ever has among nations for a free press. And he has affected the free press across the world. RSF, the Reporters Without Borders, cites Donald Trump as one of the leading causes of the cratering of free speech across the globe. Think of that. In a country that celebrates free speech in its First Amendment, is the one now leading the call to ban free speech.
And you make a great transition here, because at the same time as Donald Trump is engaging in this unprecedented war on free speech, called for journalists to be arrested. He's had the FBI investigate journalists for doing their job. A bunch of journalists gather around in Washington to celebrate and laugh with Donald Trump. And that's number 3. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, chaos, a shooting attempt, conspiracy theories everywhere. And in the end, a ballroom. Now, Brian, I want to give a little clip here. This, I think, sums up why so many people have become suspicious of Donald Trump's response to the shooting. Let's play 2.
Behind us, we're building a ballroom. They've wanted a ballroom for 150 years. It'll be spectacular. It'll be the most beautiful ballroom. I believe it because I built many a ballroom. I believe it's going to be the most beautiful ballroom.
Ballroom. I think it'll be the
the finest ballroom. I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ball. All right, I get it!
This has been nonstop. I mean, literally minutes after the shooting happened, we saw a coordinated
minutes, yes.
White House messaging response about the ballroom. And this has led to conspiracy theories everywhere. I mean, I said earlier, everything is InfoWars. But the sad reality, to me anyway, is that you don't need a conspiracy theory in a country where there are more guns than people, where it's so easy to get a gun, where there's a mental health crisis that our lawmakers acknowledge is happening, but don't do anything about. This is just table stakes to the insanity we're at nowadays. What do you think, Brian?
Boy, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, Donald Trump said he was going to reschedule the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's not his party to reschedule. It's ours. And if we want to invite him, we will. I doubt it will be rescheduled within 30 days because the logistics involved. A. B. There was no conspiracy. There was exploitation. There was no staging. There was exploitation. Donald Trump exploits everything. So quit trying to think that he's conspiring to do these things. He flies by the seat of his pants and he exploits it. He exploited he exploited it because he wants that one big, beautiful ballroom. And the reporters who are holding selfies going, this is the most dangerous situation I've ever been in. They're exploiting it for their own cause. And the messaging that comes out, that's exploitation that was driven probably by Susie Wiles or Stephen Chung, given out to, to the people in their sphere to go out and, rattle the can with this information. The Secret Service reacted accordingly. No one was killed. No one was hurt except the Secret Service agent who was fired upon in his vest. People are going, well, are they just supposed to take bullets? Yes, actually, that is one of the training points of personal protection detail of the President of the United States. Yeah, you jump in front of it, you take the bullet. But the fact was they tackled the guy. The videotape shows it, blah, 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 blah. But let's talk about that, what you talk about, guns on the street. In the first 119 days of this year, we've had 155 mass shootings. There are teenagers in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in LA, in Chicago, hell, in Bozeman, Montana, who have heard gunfire more often than the reporters and the members of the press and the politicians and the president heard that night in the ballroom. And they know how to react to it. And by God, if you're going to sit here and blame the insanity of one man on his politics, you've really missed the point. It's personal responsibility for what the man did. Hold him accountable. Don't say that the politics drove him crazy. And if you want to legislate something, how about in reference to the 155 mass shootings we've had, how about you go back to maybe just, enforcing the gun laws already on the books, which we don't do, and then writing some new gun legislation so that crazy people don't get guns. My God, the President of the United States cites a simple cognitive test used in court to determine whether or not you're competent to stand trial as evidence of the fact that he thinks he's a genius. You think we got problems with intelligence in this country? Yeah, we do. So let's not allow crazy people to have guns. That's all. I don't care if you're sane and you have them. Take a course. Hold on to them. Own as many of them as you want. Can we just start with making sure that the crazy MFers don't have guns? Start there. It's a low bar. Try to climb over that one. But you can't because you got Steve Scalise, a member of Congress, who was gunned down at a congressional softball game, who won't vote for gun legislation. It's insanity.
And there's no time, apparently, according to good Christian Mike Johnson, there's no time to vote for this because now what I think is the most disgusting part of this entire process is Republicans have begun to say, not only we need Donald Trump's ballroom because of this shooting, but now we need taxpayers to pay for it. It's not enough that this $400 million privately funded ballroom is going to get built over the objections of the planning boards. Now Republicans want to declare this a national security priority that he have his golden ballroom, and the taxpayers put an additional $400 million for it.
Well,
I mean, this was always ending here, wasn't it?
yes, it was. Donald Trump is nothing but a grifter. And, you called it the Ballroom Blitz. I remember the hit by the Suite. Everyone in the back said everyone attacking. They turned it into a Ballroom Blitz. Ballroom Blitz, that's Donnie. He's turning it into the Ballroom Blitz to get the ballroom that he wants because he needs it. You know why? Donald Trump does not want to leave that White House until he's dead. He wants to, and then he wants to lie in state in his one big beautiful ballroom and charge people 10 grand a head to see him. That's where this is going.
Yep. As the arc reactor says in the comments, there's always time and money for X for a reason Y. Yeah. And we don't even get a Y anymore. We're just saying it's national security. It's absolutely essential that we have a ballroom. Not actual gun safety, not training the Secret Service to do their jobs, not better screening at events. We need a ballroom, Brian. But I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It was like lightning. Everybody was frightening. We all started grooving. And the man in the back said, hey, everyone attack. Anyway, go. Now it's stuck. It's wormed in my head.
Well, one comment here says Americans value their guns more than their kids. Hard to argue at this point, honestly. Yeah. And building on what you said, right? There doesn't seem to be any money for anything except the ballroom. Brings us to number 2 on our story. Trump's big budget cuts coming your way, especially if you live in a city. We're seeing new federal rulemaking that will make it harder to get public housing. It's going to require work requirements, drug testing. Trump also proposing sharp limits on how long people can live in public housing that experts say will throw up to 3.7 million low-income people out of their homes. There's also a 13% cut to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's $72 million cut from the supportive housing to the elderly program, one of the only bipartisan programs we have left that Republicans like, and a staggering $900 million cut to Section 8 rental aid. I mean, this is going to make it not just harder for low-income people, but in places like New York, Chicago, LA, a lot of middle-income people live in nice Section 8 housing. They're now facing a reality where they can't afford the place they live and they can't find any place else. Brian, what do you make of it?
I think we ought to take all of the Trump towers, condemn them, and turn them into housing for the homeless, because you're going to need it after Donald Trump enacts what he's doing here. Donald Trump doesn't care about anybody but Donald Trump and the very rich people around him. It's as bad as Scott Bessent walking into the briefing room a couple of weeks ago and saying the real reason why we're getting rid of illegal immigrants is because they're creating more jobs for regular Americans. And that's what regular Americans want, to work more overtime and to have another job. That's what we want, according to him. I know people that are working 3 jobs, their main job and a couple of side gigs, including driving Ubers, to make sure that they can make ends meet while they have no education backing for their kids and no health care. And a reminder that Congress left at the end of Christmas to take a Christmas break without addressing affordable health care while they all get free health care. So Donald Trump, again, it's the fight in this country is not, black against white, Muslim against Christian, man against woman. It's the rich against the rest of us. And this is another indication of how Donald Trump is driving that narrative to make sure that the rich get richer, the poor get poor, and they keep the middle class around to look at the poor just to scare them enough to work their butts off to keep it all going so they don't end up like the poor. It's all calculated. I think it was George Carlin who said that first, and I'll credit him for that. But the fact is, there's a club out there, and folks, you ain't part of it. And Donald Trump is letting you know every day that his club runs the show, and you're lucky to be around.
And this, we touched on the urban side of this and the $21 billion that was cut from nonprofits that's now cost cities $100 billion in economic activity. There's the K-shaped recovery, the rich riding that upper part of the K to heaven. and everyone else riding it down into the grave, but also in rural communities. I mean,
Yes.
farm bankruptcies are up 46% year over year. There are farmers now who have no choice but to sell their land to these big private equity firms that are backed by some of Donald Trump's biggest donors. I don't think it's a mistake that the farm policies Trump has put in are driving these small farms right into the hands of the people who funded his campaign.
Exactly. And there's two remarks about it. This doesn't just affect urban dwellers, rural dwellers. Donald Trump's wonderful policies have meant you have no health care. I know people are driving 40 or 50 miles just to get to a hospital for a checkup, which they can't get in a doctor's office, and they got to go to an emergency room to get. And by the way, I've driven across this country many times in the last few years, and you can see it's almost like a dystopian novel. You see small communities shrinking to the point of non-existence, while robot farms, huge farms, are farming the land, the landscape, and the rich own it, and the poor have no place to go. The rural, if you're growing up in rural America today, your greatest hope is that you run across meth. I mean, many people, there is a huge problem with drug dependency among rural youth because of what's going on because of Donald Trump. And I have relatives and in-laws that suffer because of this man daily, and they don't like it. This is another example of Donald Trump taking advantage to make the rich richer, the poor poorer, and the rest of us scared to death that we're going to end up like the poor.
Yep. Anthony in the comments noting, and yet these farmers voted for this clown. How effing stupid. And yeah, I mean, he won farmers 2-1. 2-1. He actually improved his performance with farmers over 2020 by something like 8 points. But now we're seeing that start to bleed away. And part of the reason why there's suddenly such a rush to make sure only the right people vote, which brings us to the number one story for the day and probably for the coming years, the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, and essentially allowing red states to gerrymander away every black district, every majority minority district in their states. And they're wasting absolutely no time in doing that. It took Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn less than an hour before she posted an image of a redistricted Tennessee that had 0 Democratic districts and split the current black majority districts into parts of 5 other districts. Republicans are saying this is their path to a permanent majority. They're not hiding it anymore. They want to take those 75 districts covered by Section 2 and just get rid of them. I mean, Brian, where does this end?
Well, we know where it ended last time. It was a 4-year war with more deaths than we've ever seen in this country before or since in any war. In fact, the accumulated deaths in the Civil War are more than all the other wars combined. Will we see that this time? God, I hope not. What I do know that we'll see this time is if you put that infographic back up and take a look at that, that is the former
let's throw it up.
Confederate. That's the former Confederacy, and they're trying to reform the Confederacy. Whether they split from the rest of the United States or not, I don't know. But what they have condemned themselves to is what is the biggest problem in this country: ignorance, no health care, no education, and a lot of crime. And that is going to be one of the few places on earth where no one will go for any type of vacation. So you're going to see continuing spiraling down, and the Republicans will have no one to thank for that but themselves. And I got news for you, Max.
Yeah.
There is no guarantee that will guarantee the Republicans gain 12 more seats and get rid of the Democrats. They're assuming that those seats that they consider safe now will always be safe. And that's not the case. If they're, what the Democrats need is to construct a good narrative in the South about what the problems are. The Republicans only owned the South after the Civil War because they were the progressives. The Democrats are now the progressives. If the Democrats can conceive of and dedicate themselves to and go Pilgrim and go out there and talk to the people, then they'll win back those districts. If there are those who are around who understand how to craft a narrative. But right now, the Republicans are not only showing their arrogance, but their ignorance, because they're not investing in the future. They're destroying it. We're going to see continuing spiraling down of economic, educational, and healthcare in those states. And by God, that it does not portend well for the rest of the United States.
And the mask off nature of this is what terrifies me. We have a comment in here from Nathan Mason, who says they're trying to cull the herd and nationalize companies. And it is a great strategy if you're going to make things so expensive people can't afford anything and they don't like you. Make it really hard for them to vote so they can't show you, to the point where Louisiana announced yesterday that it is canceling an election that's currently happening. People have already voted. They're going to void all those votes, redraw the districts, and then tell the voters to try again and maybe get a better answer this time. I mean, that's not democracy at all.
No, that's totalitarianism. That's republicanism. That's the moron who's the Speaker of the House saying we need to keep the adults in charge, when he acts like he was always picked last for kickball. He didn't get a date to the prom. He couldn't even play kiss his cousin or kiss his sister. This is a guy who absolutely has no understanding of how Americans operate, and wants the Americans in the South. And that, I predict a bit of an uprising there, because people don't like to be told how to live their life, which is what the Republicans have now done dramatically, which is why they've lost Alex Jones, which is why they've lost Marjorie Taylor Greene, because those people went for Trump and the Republicans based on the idea that they were the best to make sure that you could live your life the way you want to. And now they're telling them you're living your life the way we want you to. And that's why they've lost them. And there are members of Congress who are aware of it. And I know Republican members of Congress who would vote for impeachment and conviction if it were a secret ballot. The Republicans are cutting their nose to spite their face in the Supreme Court and in the executive branch. And in Congress, they're too, I want to say a word I won't use, I'll say cowardly. They are too cowardly to vote the courage of their convictions. And that hurts the country. And that's why you're seeing the South the way it is.
Yep. Leaving Kitty says the Bible Belt is collapsing. I predict it will pick up now, and we'll see. Elections are just around the corner. Let's see what we end up with here. Those are our big five for the week. It has flown by. Number 5, InfoWars going dark. Number 4, Jimmy Kimmel not getting laughs from the White House again. Number 3, Donald Trump's Ballroom Blitz. A lot of commenters complimented your glam rock knowledge, by the way, Brian, so good on that.
I grew up during that time, Max. It's stuck, and it's like I said, it's an earworm. I can't get away. And the Sweet, had a couple of really good songs, so I liked them.
Number 2, the budget cuts in Trump's new budget hitting everyone. And number 1, SCOTUS and the Voting Rights Act gutting voting protections. Before we jump, we do have a question I want to get to. I want your thoughts on this. Someone asked, Arc Reactor asked, could this cause a mass migration from the South?
Yeah, of course it could.
Certainly possible. Yeah. I wouldn't want to live there.
Possible. Or what it could, people don't like to move if they've been in an area their whole life, but what they do when they feel cornered is to react. So either they react peacefully or they react violently. The protests of the 60s are likely to, be seen again. Voting rights may be squelched, but there will be people who will suffer the indignity of having to stand in line for hours to vote, to do it, to get rid of these people. And if that doesn't work, Katie, bar the door. Yeah, that was, Martin Luther King who said that, if the violence is some part a reaction to the oppression. So the more oppressive, the more violent the reaction. You can't leave that lid on a boiling pot for that long. I know they would like to grind people into the dust, but people have a way of not wanting to live their life that way. And so I have faith in, I grew up in a border state, Louisville, Kentucky, more northern Louisville than the rest of the state, which was southern. But I can tell you that people in Kentucky, there are many people in Kentucky, including I don't know, Thomas Massey in Congress who doesn't like what's going on with Donald Trump. There are people in those southern states, there are people in his party. And once Donald Trump is gone, I think that coalition falls apart, but it's going to get ugly for a very long time.
Yep. And on this 250th anniversary of America, a good time to remember, Americans don't really like when you make their elected choices for them. And on that chipper note, that is our show, but keep the conversation going, folks. Follow us on Substack, on YouTube, on Twitter, at Lincoln Square. Add in comments. Reach out to me at @TheMaxBurns on Twitter. Brian, where can people find you?
Well, let's see. Salon.com once a week with color commentary this week on the wonderful White House Ballroom Blitz. You can catch me on Substack at the Reporter's Notebook at Brian Karam. The name of the book is called Free the Press, and wherever fine books are sold, the podcast is Just Ask the Question, wherever fine podcasts are sold. And I will plug the documentary we're going to Cannes for in 2 weeks. It's the first 100 days of the Donald Trump administration. We get our premiere at a private viewing in Cannes on May 18th. And after that, it'll be available, well, hopefully all over the place. So I'll keep you up to date on that.
Well, I hope they let you back into the country, brother. I appreciate it. I've been your host, Max Burns, my guest, Brian Karam. As always, stay safe out there, and there's a whole lot more Lincoln Square to watch, so stick around.